Hi Divine Rebels, Bohemia with Bohemian Stars and Ocean Heart here, and today we are doing a reading about how to unpack our trauma. It is a Cancer moon, it is Cancer Mercury season now, Cancer Mars, and the North Node is in the sign of Cancer as well. So it's really good to kind of, as we're sailing forward, right, the North Node, it's good to go backward in the fact that we unpack our stuff from the past, that we kind of get to the bottom of childhood issues or situations that happened that really affected us in the past, whether that is this lifetime or even in our Akashic records. It's really good to get to the point that we feel more whole and nurtured in our emotional spiritual self. So I thought this reading would be a good one to go into. It's what came to me as I sat and, meditated on which reading should I do next. It was just like, boom, this one. We are using the Ancestral Path Tarot. We began unboxing it on a live, and then I had to go and love on the baby. But yes, it was meant to be used in this reading, so we're going to do that as well. So I also want to say too, this is not a substitute for any counseling. This is just to be, a help, an additive for sometimes we need to know, maybe it can bring up, oh yeah, you're right, I need to work on the issues that that particular person had that affected me or that situation. Or yes, you're right, I should have to feel more confident in myself, or maybe take a break. We don't know what tarot will kind of remind us as we go about our journey of unpacking things. So this doesn't substitute, having the rest of our mental and emotional and spiritual health care. It's just meant to be, a bit of a guide for us to take back to those spaces and say, this was brought up. How can I use this medicine as a way to help me in my healing path? Okay. So it's a tool, not something that's meant to just kind of trigger everything and forcing it down any kind of path, if that makes sense. And I also want to say that traumas can be in small ways, or maybe we've worked through them now, but we're still operating in small ways that they can affect us. So I woke up today and I was thinking, I'm still having these crazy weird dreams. Gemini season dreams are so weird. I'm okay when those leave. They start off really good and then they end really messed up, and I'm like, whoa, that was Gemini season. Okay, let me do that lucid dreaming thing and wake up out this, because who's curating these dreams? Where's Pisces? Oh, Gemini season, that's right. But I should sleep with some of these stones. These are all good watery stones, good for dreaming. So I woke up and I was thinking about how one of the things that was a trigger for me, a trauma for me, was being very erased by people growing up, never being allowed to have my own voice, my own emotions, my own presence whatsoever. Always, I'm water dominant, always being made to use all that I was to be what other people needed, and being those molds, and those being very intense, sometimes even violent demands that I do so. So now when I have friendships or things, and behind the scenes, being someone that's Pisces and water dominant and 12th house and Neptune and all these kind of things really active in my chart, when I have friendships or such, even though I have like this through social media, ways that people can publicly see me, if I am behind the scenes sharing information, parts of my personality, things like that with people, and then publicly they're using that for them, and I always have to hear back from others like, oh, so I got that from so and so, and I'm like, yeah, but I shared that with them. That's me, guys. Don't tell me about me. I noticed I was like, oh, that's tied to that deeper trauma of having that erasure, and it's tied to that cultural trauma of erasure and appropriation and all of those things, right? So I've worked through a lot of it, but in small ways, it's still operates, that we heal things on levels and levels and levels. So I just want to say, if even if something is getting to the point where you're like, well, that's kind of a superficial level now, that's kind of a petty level, it's hard for me to address that because it's tied to this iceberg of things that I've healed. It's okay to still acknowledge those things and to let the people who love you or are supposed to love you around you, right, that are your friends and things of that nature, to know that that goes on, so that they can be more conscious and not kind of just glossing over those aspects that you've done a lot of hard work to show up for yourself. And so I just wanted to put that out there in my very mom friend kind of way, with all this Cancer energy supporting that. It's important that we don't undermine certain parts of ourselves just because we feel like, well, I should have healed that already, or I've worked on that a long time, and because I'm not as traumatized as I used to be by it, now I'm going to disregard it. No, you still deserve to fully clean out that wound, right? Because what happens if we don't fully clean out a wound? All that bacteria, it just germinates and it comes back full-fledged, and it comes back in ways that we didn't expect and we can't control. So feel free to continue to clean those wounds, and if it's speaking up for yourself. And others are like, it's not that big deal, or maybe they're saying, well, do you have to speak up right now? It's just bringing drama. And you're like, no, because that's not what it is for me. You can project that it's drama, but I deserve to have myself represented clearly and to speak clearly what is going on with me, right? For example. So I just wanted to put that out there. My people are like, your little TED Talks PSA kikis at the beginning of your video. But hey, this is what comes to me. This is what I see going on. This is what's happening with me. So I just want to go ahead and share. Continue to claim your space. Continue to claim your healing journey. And don't feel discouraged or like embarrassed socially if you do need to, continue to clarify things that you worked hard on. Okay. All right, so getting into the reading here, we have very watery stones here as we do this deep work. We have blue lace agate. I try to pick stones that are good for working on deep traumas in gentle ways, but empowering ways. So blue lace agate here is really good at helping us to speak our truth from like our emotional truths without like projecting our emotions or getting so lost in them we can't talk. Like if you're like an angry crier, or something like that, it helps us process and honor our emotions but still be able to communicate them. We have aquamarine, which is good for all of those subconscious things. And of course, these three here with the blues and the aquas are throat chakra. So aquamarine is good at helping us kind of peruse our subconscious and get safely to the other side of that without getting lost at sea, so to speak, there. Hemimorphite here is another one of the oceanic themed stones. Again, it's very good at kind of pulling. With this one, I think it's good with pulling from the heart chakra and bringing up, again, a deeper self, but in a way that is more workable. Maybe it can, you'll work on those things during your dream time, or, in a communicative way. Whether it's through art or whatever, you start becoming able to communicate those things, those issues that have been underlying but that you haven't been able to get to. And lithium quartz is really, really, really amazing if you're working on self-love, especially if you're working on self-harm. If you're working that, and lepidolite are really, really good for that. If you're learning to love yourself again and nurture deeper aspects of yourself, and if you have basically deep traumas that you just want, these are helping things. They don't, again, substitute for anything else that we need in our emotional, mental, spiritual health care. But lithium quartz helps to aid things to come up a bit softer. If you feel like, okay, when I surface from the depths of the ocean, if you go too quickly, your lungs pop, right? If you feel like, if I go too deeply in this, like, it will actually be harmful to me. I can't just dive into that trauma. Lithium quartz is really good at assisting for things to be able to come up gently and for us to feel more comfortable as we have to deal with those things. So you could take a lithium quartz to help assist, like when you're going to your counseling or something, to kind of, you know, have your back in that way, to help you have your boundaries as you open up to deeper levels of things that you want to work on, but that it's just really hard to go there. It's a good guide to help with that. So these stones, once again, 1 is blue lace agate, 2 is aquamarine, 3 is hemimorphite, and 4 is lithium quartz. So we'll get into it. Please comment down below, share, subscribe, all that goodness. Welcome to the new subscribers. We appreciate y'all, and I will talk to you on your timestamp. Get into this here. Oh, it's Wednesday already, so I will be going live. I'll be posting this as soon as I record it, and I will be going live today, and we will be discussing the first part of the Jambalaya book. Okay, all right. For those of you who chose number 1, some tips for unpacking trauma. We have the King of Staves, which is the King of Wands. We have the 8 of Wands. We have the Ace of Swords reversed. And we have the 6 of Cups reversed. And we also have sacrifice, renunciation, offering, letting go. Wow, I really see what I was talking about in the intro in these cards, where, you know, you are someone who gets others' attention, your ideas and creativity are on point, your insight, your relevancy to popular culture is so strong and profound, and yet you had that really drained from you when you were younger. You had this message that you weren't to speak, that you weren't to talk or to communicate, that you had to grow up very fast in some ways. Excuse me, maybe while others around you were allowed to act very childish, right? Let's see, I'm still still out of view. These are larger cards, so I want you to be able to see them because they're gorgeous. Okay, yes, so that is the theme here, is having to sacrifice. Some of you weren't very protected by others growing up. You felt like you had to protect yourself. You might have been very exposed and not able to really speak up for yourself, not able to communicate how you felt exposed or vulnerable or not protected by the adults and people around you. Here with the 6 of Cups reversed, we see that bear was supposed to protect this child. Here we see that, you know, goose, sacrifice, renunciation, offering, letting go. So letting go is a big part of trauma work for you, which that's hard, right? Because we're like, oh, just let it go, you know. That's easier said than done. We have the Ace of Swords reversed. It's hard to cut and clear that. It's hard to just, you know, you're like, oh, I can't just presto changeo. Now some of you feel like, well, that was in the past, I'm over it, but it's still coming up here in regards to your confidence, in regards to how you put yourself forward. It's still operating on a deeper level. You might run into it when you're doing the inner child work, when you're trying to find a sense of deserving within yourself. You might have difficulty expressing your Leo aspects in your chart. And we all have Leo in our chart, even if we don't have placements. Like even though we might not have planets placed in the sign of Leo, we have it on the house cusp. So whatever house expresses Leo in your chart, that might be difficult for you to express, as well as your sun sign qualities. It might be difficult for you to fully, you know, like claim all the best qualities of your sun sign because they were inhibited. Now, some of you, that's where a bit of temper comes, or like, don't tell me what to do, I'm going to say what I want. But it's like, you say what you want, but are you saying what you really feel? Like in the moment you might like, and that's why that happens, is because you're like, I'm not going to be shut up. I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to not say what I feel. And then later you're like, shit, was it even that serious? Why did I even say that? That wasn't the deeper root. I'm still not feeling heard or understood, right? Because there's other more serious things. There's things in relation to your identity. There's things in relation to feeling fully acknowledged, that's the part that wants to be heard. This kind of reminds me like when people troll on the internet, or they're always haters or something. They talk like so much. This is Mercury and Sagittarius. Like they talk so much, but you can tell that, okay, you're talking so much and you're talking shit sometimes because really like you have other pains that are beneath that. And so that could be a thing. Some of you might be big talkers. I'm hearing Aquarius, Sagittarius, they're Leos, Aries. You might really do that. Scorpios. You might really talk a lot of shit sometimes, but underneath you don't feel that confidence. You don't feel, again, like the quality of what you're searching for isn't there, but you're like, well, I need to take up space. I need to say something. I need to be heard. And so that is part of unpacking trauma, is to look at, am I saying what I really need to say in order to feel heard, or am I just being reactionary and just making sure I got an opinion in there, just, you know what I mean, just so I have an opinion. You might see this reflected like if you have a partner, close relationship, like you're gonna say something just to have something in the pot, even if they're like, I'm saying the same thing, why are we arguing? Like I'm saying the same thing you are, and you're like, yes, but I need to say my opinion, you know. And it's not saying any of that is wrong, it's just saying that it might not be the most efficient for the attention and the communication and the personal identification that you're really trying to step into. This is a card of Osiris. Okay, so yes, he had real trauma. His own brother murdered him, severed him, scattered him around. He was reassembled and blessed up by his wife, and he, you know, he did end up leveling up the way gods do. He had a god glow up. Okay, he became lord of like the underworld and many other things, and really came to represent a lot of justice and truth. And he's very pure-hearted, and he can tell the hearts of others. So for you guys, stepping into places like that where you can become a bit more discerning. I think when, you know, you were younger, it was hard to know who were the truth tellers, who were the liars, or when it was okay to point out the truth tellers from the liars, things of that nature. Like, should I be a whistleblower in this situation? Should I be an advocate in this situation? I think that's kind of a thing. Like, should I speak up? No, I shouldn't. And then it comes out at wrong times, or it comes out in ways where everyone's like, okay, so you advocate for cat, you know, I don't know, cats and not hamsters. Like, you know, you're like, okay, that wasn't, I want my voice heard more than just talking about cats and hamsters in the world, right? So I do feel like some of you have big hearts. You do have a lot of courage. You do want to do, like, speak on things that are big issues in this world. I'm getting some of you might really want to advocate for like children in foster care, or the youth, or you want to be a good example, you want to be a role model and a leader. And so these are things to focus on and unpack to help you get to that point, because you understand what it's like to be in those places, but you also have things that you want to work on so that that solar plexus isn't being so wonky and like going it to such extremes. So it's solar plexus and throat chakra that are the things to work on, kind of Mercury and solar energies if you do it planetary. Also, it's knowing when to sacrifice yourself and when not to, because you haven't had the option sometimes of when to kind of, like, maybe you were just put down, you didn't have a choice, your life hit the fan for the benefit of others. You might have a lot of guards around that, or you might give very bitterly or resentfully to others, like you do it and then you resent them. And so taking more control about, more responsibility over when you do things for others, when you sacrifice. And if you don't want to, then don't do it, right? Because if you do it and then now you resent them for it, that's not helping anyone in the situation. Also, when others are coming and just deciding that they're going to make you sacrifice for them, really being able to put your foot down and say, no, like, I'm not the doormat. That's not going to happen. I am a courageous person. I do defend myself. Some of you, it's easier for you to defend others than it is for you to defend yourself. And that is something that is part of unpacking trauma, is to show up for yourself now, be confident for yourself, and speak up when people are crossing your boundaries. Okay, so those are some themes and ideas to begin that the next level of unpacking things. I hope that it helps you and that it resonates with you and that they can be some useful tools. Thank you for watching, and I appreciate so much you healing and loving on yourself, because it's very loving to want to heal ourselves. It's so loving to be brave and to look at the truth of ourselves so that we can move forward in a healing way. So I appreciate that, because if we all heal ourselves, we heal the world. So like my Pisces. It's so true though. It's so true. So thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. All right. For those of you that chose number 2 with the Aquamarine, how can you unpack your trauma, or what traumas need to be unpacked at this time? We have the 5 of Wands. Excuse me. We have the 6 of Cups again. I say again because number 1 had it, which is appropriate in this reading, huh? We have the 10 of Swords. We have the Knight of Swords reversed. And we have call for help, reach out, need for backup, admit your needs. Oh, that's so sweet. And see how it starts blossoming once she does. Okay. So a lot of you, excuse me, unpacking your trauma is to learn the difference between a friend and a foe. Okay, you guys have had a lot of frenemies. You've had a lot of betrayals here with the 10 of Swords, a lot of backstabbing. Some of you have not been very good friends before. You've really betrayed others for a sense of worth, or, you know, trying to be loyal to too many people, right? And not really knowing how to do that, and you might really regret like relationships that have gone by, depending on what side that you were on. Some of you have friendships on both sides, ones that you really are like, man, I didn't even realize that I was betraying that friendship, or, you know, kind of choosing the wrong option, having the wrong loyalties to the wrong people, and I lost out on having friendships with really good people. And sometimes it was you know, them doing the same thing to you, where they were making the wrong decisions and choices and ruining that friendship. Because here we have a unicorn, right? Relationships that were drawn together, maybe even drawn together through your ancestors, and that should have been very blessed and a lot of understanding, but it ended up being very nasty, a lot of cruel words, hardships here. So it can lead to you feeling like you can't just open up to others, feeling like you can't just tell your friends what's truly going on, like really on a deeper level. Like I feel like a lot of yeah, Scorpio energies here. A lot of Scorpios are like that, where no matter how much they talk about the deeper emotional things that are going on, they're not talking about everything. You don't know everything, because they're not going to give you that power to hurt them. So a lot of you have that kind of energy in your friendships. You know, you don't really get down to the nitty-gritty. We have Gemini here as well, so it's like you talk and you talk a lot, but are you really saying anything with your friends? When you really have those moments where you have been triggered, where your trauma's coming up, where your life is a true devastating mess, do you feel that you can call out to them and have you know, people to help? And people that don't hold that against you. You know, maybe you're like, well, yeah, when I really have to, then I do because I have to, but it doesn't end up being a good situation. You don't have reliable people. Some of you are like, well, I don't have friends. Well, this is why, because this is operating to the point that you don't feel that you can trust people, or that maybe some of you haven't learned how to choose good friends, how to call in good friends to you. One thing I love about this reading is you have the 5 of Wands, which is usually battle, enemies, frenemies, that kind of thing. But here in this deck, let's see, there was a person hidden. There we go. And that's how you might feel in group dynamics, that you're hidden. Here in this deck, they are all coming together to work on a common goal. So the friction, the tension is all focused on the goal, because see, there's only 4 people, not 5, because the 5th person is the problem that they're actually working on. And so that is what you need in your friendships, and that is what your friendships need for you, is to be able to learn how to focus energy in relationships. Learn how to like not target the person but the problem. So for instance, if a friend calls and they're going through domestic violence and you're like, well, you always go through this, like I had this friend that when I was having a hard time, like I was coming out of like childhood homelessness and learning how to like take care of an entire life, have, you know, I did so amazing, I was doing really good. But if I ever was kind of short on something, or like I was a college student too, so like if I didn't have like the most full cupboards of food or whatever, instead of pumping me up and being like, hey, you're worth even having more, let's go and do even more, this friend would be very critical with Gemini, with Virgo in their chart, very mercurial dominant, and they would tell me like, oh, well, how do you think that makes me feel, basically that I have to worry about you? And I remember being like, holy shit, like what? And that's when I started realizing that pattern of people being around who act like they care for you and act like they're nurturing you, but it has to deal with them not wanting to feel. So some of you are that friend to others where it's like you tell everyone, oh, you can call me anytime, we can work on these things, but when they do, like you have an issue and you're more worried about or more frustrated that their life isn't perfect and that you're having to deal with it than you are on hearing them. And then you also might get that treatment from others where you're like, man, I was trying to get closer, I was trying to be more open with you, but now I'm feeling attacked. Like, why? This is my life, I just need support and a little bit of love. Why am I being attacked in this situation? So yeah, themes to unpack. Making sure that you have people around you that you can admit your needs to, and it doesn't end the relationship. Ooh, that's a thing here. Not ooh as in like juicy drama, like ooh, like ouch, right? I understand. That's important. So that is a good way to start weeding out who is around you. You need better loyalties. The Knight of Swords reverse is shady. You feel like, man, if I tell you this, you're gonna go gossip this to someone else. Excuse me, you're going to go talk to your friends that aren't my friends about it. Maybe some of you also share information, right? Again, a lot of times our traumas go both ways, because when we're hurt, we can act out in ways that we have suffered from. And that's why I say it both sides of the coin, because usually when it comes to our intense traumas, we're not just on one side of the equation. We tend to, if we do get brave enough to try to interact with people in that zone, we'll notice that we start doing the same things, right? When people are like, oh my God, I'm my parents, you know, or like those kind of things, we're like, oh shoot, I didn't realize I'm reenacting this programming. So I say it that way so that we have the chance to kind of see that mirror and be like, oh yeah, I have done that before. That didn't feel good when it happened to me. Let me change that, because I definitely want to be the person my friends can come to without judgment, without you know, without rehashing how many times they have done this or how painful it is for me to have to deal with them going through this, right? So this is the need for backup, not to hear it back from others or that person after they've helped you that, oh, you know, this was so inconvenient for me, da 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 da, right? And I do get that a lot. Like air signs can do that a lot, especially Geminis and Libras, right? So this is asking that you take better care of yourself and your friendships. This is also saying that part of your trauma is needing to speak out. So, you know, a lot of times with like suicide awareness and stuff, the memes will say, you'll see the one part of the memes will say, if you're ever depressed or sad, call me, talk to me. And then you'll see the other people post the memes that are like, if they're sad and depressed, they're not going to call you. That's the point. You know, people get all mad at each other. This is like, okay, part of your trauma care is being responsible for reaching out when you realize that you're going down that spiral. You have to communicate to someone. You could call your counselor, you can call a hotline, but it is saying you have to get yourself out of that silence, out of feeling that everyone's attacking you, that you have no one, that you're alone. You have to start connecting with others, right? Because if every time someone comes in, they get the clap, they're cut off, you're gonna stay in that place of isolation, right? So yes, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. There might still be some more mistakes in who you connect with, or sometimes relationships are just short term. Okay, that's what they're like. Make sure to mention that. Sometimes relationships are short term. I have this, right? I have some people that I have friends that are around the world that I've known for years, and we like have this mad love and support to each other, even if we don't talk for months, even if our travels take us wherever. And then I also have this thing where I have people who circulate very quickly through my life. So we have intense, very meaningful, very needed relationships, and then they kind of go their separate ways. Sometimes it's not so good. Sometimes it's wonderful, but I don't know, life just, I'm someone who moved a lot when I was younger, right? Life just takes you different ways sometimes. And so sometimes it can feel lonely, like, oh, what? Like, do I not have friends? And then you remember, no, you have intense, beautiful relationships that trigger a lot of growth and healing. You have friends that are around the world, all over the place. And so for you guys, you might have to let go of certain ideals of a relationship. Keep your standards, but let go of certain ideals, because people are people. And it's one thing that we're like, oh, I can't stand humans, da, 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 da. But a lot of times, let's be honest, people use that as an excuse to not love real people and to demand this kind of perfection fantasy, of what they want from friends. And if they're not going to get it, they're just going to go like overly smother animals and make them love them, kind of thing. There's totally a proper way to have emotional support animals and just animal friends that we love, I think. But you know what I mean? Some people, it's like, put the animal down. They're trying to escape. Like, leave them, go have real friends. All right. So this is about finding those boundaries, and you're going to have to be patient with yourself because you don't always do it right. Now, some of you are going to be like, well, I have tons of friends around, I don't know what you're talking about. Are they the most honest and authentic, or are they ones that we've been navigating around each other's triggers for years, and so that's just what we do? Or, well, yeah, we talk shit about behind each other's backs, but that's just what we do. This is saying that this is not fulfilling to you, and that's why you came to this reading. Okay, so kind of set a goal for yourself to reach out more. You could start by doing it once a week, once a month, once a day. That, okay, I'm going to reach out when I need to hear someone's voice. It doesn't mean you have to confess all the deeper stuff that's going on, but you're going to establish a more meaningful connection with others. Okay, and you're going to start working on those boundaries of, okay, how much should I just, you don't want to put everything on people. I think that's what some of you are like, well, no, because when I talk to people, I end up putting all my business on them. Then I feel self-conscious. So it's like, again, be patient with yourself. You're working on those boundaries, and you have to know that so that you can, work through it. I think it's different too if our friends know that. I learned that, and I was like, whoa, if I tell people that I'm working on something, then like I feel better, and they're able to understand where I'm coming from. I had to do that when I was working on speaking up, right, and relationships. And finally I was like, you know what, guys, I'm working on this. If you're my friend, I need you to have my back. I also need you to understand that sometimes I might get, like, I'm working on expressing anger. I might overdo it sometimes because I'm like, oh shoot, I stepped over my boundaries. I didn't know, actually, I'm upset, and it took me a minute to kind of get the hang of that, and to be able to have that dialogue and friends to know what was going on, to be able to diffuse the elephant in the room can really, really help. All right. So that is a big part of it. Some of you have to be brave and know that it's okay to get counseling, right? It's okay to have many different people that help you kind of go after this problem or this thing that's been bothering you from different aspects and angles, right? So I don't think the answer is just doing spiritual work or just doing one aspect of it. I think all the way around, it's like mind, body, soul healing. Okay, so feel free to diversify that portfolio that you're using to work on these past traumas, and also to have more than one friend. Okay, not so many that you're just using the scene to escape having intimacy, but also not just feeling like, well, I'm just gonna have one person and they have to be perfect and they have to take all of this on. It's okay to have different friends that are able to meet you at different levels and give you kind of different pieces of advice that you go to on different times. That's a real thing, and it's okay for our friends to have that as well. We don't have to be everything for one friend. It's actually very good if they have, they might have a Scorpio friend that gives them that deep emotional truth. They may have that Pisces that sits with them, at 3 a.m. when they're really going through something. And then they have the Sagittarius friend that's like, get off your ass, we're going out. That Aries that's like, I'll kick their ass, let's go. we're egging someone's house, okay? Look, that's the lighter version of Aries, okay? Yes, so it's good to have that. So that is your advice. I hope that's a good, starting point to help unpack and get some tools and ideas of how to manage and work through some of these topics. And I wish you all the best. Thank you for your bravery and looking into healing yourself. As I'm saying on all of these, it's when we heal ourselves, we heal the world. We heal the possibility for our future generations. We break that from being handed down. So thank you so much for caring enough to, nurture yourself and heal yourself. All right, for those of you who chose number 3 with the Hemimorphite, how can you unpack your traumas right now? What tools do you have? Which ones need focus at this time? We have the 6 of Swords. We have the 9 of Wands. We have the 6 of Wands. We have the 5 of Wands reversed. And we have Nobility. It says honor, high standards, idealistic. Okay. So with this one, I think you guys work really hard to get out of anything that was the triggering stuff from the past, to really have the upper hand on these situations. I think a lot of you are very aware that you can have some kind of PTSD about things, and that you have certain kind of triggers or rules or boundaries, and I see you really trying to bounce back, but it's hard because those things still come up. Some of you have actually been in battles, you've actually been in wars, whether that was actually being in the military or whether that was doing something very traumatic. Maybe you were you or your spouse was a firefighter. Maybe you grew up in the hood where it's literally, it's like hard knock life that doesn't get acknowledged, that is, can be very traumatic growing up in those situations. When we're in situations in our home countries or our home neighborhoods where we don't feel safe growing up, and there's very, very much so a could be, I'm seeing with this one, for some of you, you have like survivor's guilt, or just trauma that can be triggered from growing up really, really hard and being in areas and situations that were not safe. Okay, it's like the 5 of Wands reversed. A lot of you might have moved. You might even be, people might not ever guess, because I'm seeing this nobility card. Some of you, you're like high class now. You're not in the same class that you grew up with. I do see some of you have moved, even immigrated, were refugees, things of that nature. And so people might never know this pain that you have inside. And I feel like sometimes you feel like a bit of like, okay, like it's not a joke, that stuff was real for me. I don't want to act like it was just a joke, but it kind of pops up when I don't expect it. And some of you really have frustrations or anger about certain things, and that's why, because you're like, you guys don't know how it really was. You don't know what I've been through or where I come from. So don't tell me about me, right? Having those boundaries. And it's like, okay, it's not a particular person or situation necessarily that I'm fighting. It's just feeling like I have to overcome all of that. Some of you feel like you were very set back in life, and it takes so much to show up and be you, and to maybe some of you, you're still hearing that news, back in the homeland, or here in the States, you're still seeing people that are where you're from or that look like you being hurt, being brutalized. And so again, there's that feeling of not wanting that to happen anymore, being happy that you're making it out of it, but also having guilt too sometimes about, man, how did I make it out of that? For some of you, this was in your home. Maybe you did go through some abuse, but maybe like some other siblings got it a lot worse, or maybe they weren't able to transmute it the way that you were, and they went, you know, the road where they got involved in some really bad stuff. They got involved in the bad crowds, and then you found a way to, you know, come out of it in a way that looks more society appeasing, but you still carry those wounds. Again, you're like, you guys don't know what I've been through. I relate. Like, that could have been me. I relate to the wrong side of the tracks, you know. And it's I think sometimes when we don't show it on the outside, that people can really try to negate the scarring that we've gone through, right? You see that a lot, again, with like foster kids, domestic violence abuse victims, survivors of any sort of that if you come through it in a good way, people they'll like that story, they'll want to run with it, but they kind of try to push you before you're ready. The Six of Swords, and the Six of Swords is beautiful because usually the Six of Swords is already in the boat, right? It's somebody like that came in, rescued you, and is pushing you forward on this boat to get to clear waters, which is beautiful. But in this one, this is about you taking control of that and saying, look, I need a minute. You can't force me to be on the other side of this ocean. Like, I am sitting in this. This is reality right now. And I need to work through it. I can't skate over it. Nobody can just come and save me from it. I have to learn how to bounce back when these moments happen. I have to learn, some of you I'm hearing, make better choices. So making choices to not go into those crowds and relationships that re-trigger these situations. Some of you, it's like you want to live the good life, but also know how to tap back in to help, you know, those tough situations that you came out of, or those who go through a similar situation like that. Right, I'm hearing orphanage. Some people had connections with orphanage, and you're like, no, I want to help, but how do I go and do that while handling my own wounds and traumas from those situations, my own abandonment or neglect? How do I go and start helping in that situation without re-triggering myself? How do I work on these things within myself? Okay, oops, sorry, I was hitting the microphone. And so I love this Six of Swords, this pause, this let me get me right for a moment, okay? Yes, we're going to go out and save the world. Yes, I love that you're trying to save me right now. But I need to pause and reflect deeper within myself. I need to know that it's okay that I am insanely successful, and that I do make it where others couldn't make it. Maybe no one else in my family's been able to reach this, and I feel like there's some guilt there sometimes, but there's also the pressure of expectation that maybe you're the good one in the group, or maybe that you should have been. And so it's kind of like this Achilles heel, where it's like, I'm supposed to be mad successful. That's what, you know, I need to do that. That's what society expects of me. But at the same time, I feel guilty when I'm very successful. And I also worry that somehow the pain of what I've been through is going to pop up at a time I don't expect and kind of ruin it all. Or that there's going to be this, oh, we found out about your past, you don't deserve this. And that's not true. And so if you guys have are having like a problem of like, you move forward, you start getting really successful, and then everything hits the fan, and it's like back to like the tower and like traumatic zone, and nothing is kind of going in the way that you want, this could be a theme of why that's happening. You know, it could really be that having to find that bridge within yourself, right? Crossing that river yourself of, okay, let me go back to the healing that I need, not what society pushed me forward through. Because that's why with this 9 to 5 and all of that, society tries to distract us from the horrors that it put us through in our childhood, right? Oh, well, get over it. That's life. That's life. That's life. Okay, move on now. Yes. Yep. That sucks. Move on now. We gave you time. You had 2 weeks, a year. If you had a good job, you should be over that by now. Move on. And this is like, shut up, society, right? Shut up, rat race. I need to go back and unpack some stuff. this isn't serving me. Maybe I've already, maybe I'm about ready to hit retirement, or maybe I've just been, whatever time length it's been, you've been doing it too long, and you just need to pump the brakes and let yourself have the time to be like, yes, I'm going to be mad successful. Yes, I am a success. The fact that I'm even here, regardless if you made some mistakes, okay? Regardless, mistakes would be if you've done harm yourself, or, harmed others by not tending to this wound. Some of you're like, I really went out and partied and did the drugs and that whole thing. Maybe you did that. Maybe you're at that point now and you haven't hit the success yet. But the point is, your life, it's literally your life. It's literally your soul's journey to heal and to get more self-discovery. And so for you guys, a big part of that is slowing life down, finding ways to make life more fluid for you, finding ways to not have to be kind of that jumping gesture, like I'm not your puppet, I'm not your like I'm just seeing like that, like the strings, like I'm a real boy, I'm a real person, that Pinocchio kind of thing, right? And really reclaiming just your existence as an individual, so that you can be like, look, I had major surgery, I've had some medical trauma, I need to be able to fully heal and work for myself. I need to be able to have extended medical leave. So I feel like really demanding that life give you the pauses and knowing that you deserve them, and that this is a mark of success for you. Success isn't always working. I definitely get some Capricorns and Scorpios in this group. Success isn't always 24/7 being on the go, working, having, like, that's what being successful is, right? No, success is also when you can say, you know what, I took time off for my health. I went and revisited this part of my life that I needed to. Now I feel back on track and I feel good. We don't have to wait until we're in our 60s, 70s, 80s. Now this is how late our elders are having to work in this country because of all this bull, right? We don't have to wait until we're there to finally be able to get some rest. We don't have to work ourselves into the ground. So I do see like time management, finding ways to have more fulfillment in your career path, more fulfillment and what you think is success. You might want to revisit some of your goals and recognize that some of the goals that you had that you thought you needed to do were for others, and they might not even have those goals for you, or they might not even be in your life anymore, but you're still operating under that, right? Some of you, that's where that sadness comes from. You might be like, man, I just had a stage mom. Like, I didn't even want to go into this career and try to be famous. I didn't want to try to, I had a dance mom or whatever, or parent. I didn't want this particular path for myself when it came to what I'm studying in school. Different things like that. Right? I don't even need this huge damn mansion. Like, what am I doing? I actually want to have a tiny home. So it's about figuring out, what do you want? What are your motivations? Really, really, really unpacking that, like truly going back to basics, hitting the reset on your life. A lot of people at this point of their life will go on a retreat, or they'll go on, I hear some people laughing like, yeah, like I have time for a retreat. Like I can afford a retreat. Start emotionally and mentally, spiritually creating that space for yourself, and watch how life changes so that you can allow it. Remember, all right, I'm someone that, I've been in the streets. I've grown up in homelessness. I know what it's like to have to do what you need to do to survive and to get out of that mode. I am also someone who works for myself now, and I do have time, even though it's sometimes still a struggle, and I have to remind myself, have time to recover from medical things, to work through spiritual, emotional things. Okay, so believe me, you can do it. It is a bit getting out of the matrix, getting out of the rat race, getting out of the abusive relationships is huge. Putting up fierce boundaries is a big thing with the Nine of Wands, because you know what you know, and you know what doesn't work for you. Now, what I'm seeing for some of you is be okay with putting up temporary boundaries. Like, for instance, you might know that it's not healthy to not, like, maybe you're like, okay, for me, it's not healthy that I never want to have a partner and that I become like anti-relationship. However, right now for this time frame, I need to be anti-relationship because I need my own space and I need to discover myself. So sometimes we can have boundaries that are good to put up temporarily. We close up those walls and we say, no, not today, Satan. Not now. No, later I'll take this boundary down. Or when someone has the right key code, I am open to them coming behind these walls, and I'm open to better negotiating over the wall when people are trying to come in and not just making them have to beat it down. However, these walls are up for a reason, because look, there weren't any fences here, right? I think it's very interesting that the Five of Wands and the Six of Wands are right here by each other. Some of you have to work on filling that emptiness with more emptiness, okay? So this person wasn't able to find realness in relationships and people, or too much realness, okay? Too much that's life from people. And so they're sitting here with a Jack in the Box now. All right, and just feeling very lonely. You do need real interaction and connection, but you don't need it at the cost of authenticity. Some of you, I do see emotional support animals. You might have a husky. We have a husky, witchy pup, that are there in a good way. I think in the other one, the last one I mentioned, when people do it the opposite way, right, in order to escape connecting with humans, or they use it as an excuse to literally hate and condemn all of humanity 24/7 by being like, well, animals are better, and then they don't care that there's like children getting shot in the world and like all of this stuff going on because, oh well, screw humans, you know, get animals. So that was like, no, don't do that. But in your case, I feel like no, like there could be a real authenticity. I think that you want to have friendships. You really work on yourself to be able to show up in relationships and things, and having the support and love of working out that balance. It says nobility and honor in an honorable way with another creature that's not always a human could be a way to get a lot of good therapy and to see that respect. I think sometimes that's the beautiful part with animals is they remind us and show us that we do deserve to have respect, that we do deserve to communicate and to have interaction and to be able to have closeness with another being, and that we're not crazy for thinking that. You know, we're not crazy for having certain rules and boundaries. And the animal kingdom does. They have rules and boundaries, like they really do. So I think, and you know, that's why I think these wolves are here. They're wild. So maybe even doing some wildlife rehabilitation, or you know, whenever animals are getting rewild, when they've been overly domesticated. Like around here, there's a place that there's like race horses that get to go and just, you know, be horses and run in their little herd and stuff. Back out on the land. So you might do something like that, but it's also rewilding yourself. Who were you if you hit the reset button? All right, and you're back before all of this trauma, before all of these false desires, false opinions of yourself, all of this hatred that the world shoved in you. What would you do? How would you react? How would you live your life? What would you claim for yourself? What love would you think that you deserved? That's a very, very important place to get back to, okay? So don't be afraid of success. You're deserving of it, all right? And it really is getting to the point that troubles aren't going to last. Things are going to get better. You're going to find a way and all this crazy matrix to make a better life for yourself. And that goodness is going to last because you care so much to work on it within. And I do think that you guys are very loving people with very high morals. You know, I don't think you take the easy way out a lot. I think you do your best within your situation. You have your own personal code that you operate by. Sometimes you're too hard on yourself. Even when others are like, okay, I would have went ahead and, you know, copped that apple if I was starving, and you were like, no, I wasn't going to. Some of you, maybe you did have times of your life where you, you know, kind of shed that moral code and you still feel bad about it. It's like, it's time to hit reset now. And let yourself go back to ground zero, go back to, oh wow, ground zero. Okay, that could be something that some of you, that could be the event for some of you. But go back to basics, go back to forgiveness of self, give yourself a pure, clean slate, and then see how your life can grow and blossom from there. And maybe you'll finally be ready on your own terms and grounds to fully cross that ocean, that sea, to that fully new path for yourself. Okay? It's not that you'll forget where you come from. It's not that you'll suddenly become a snob and not take care of your community where you're from. It's just that you'll be at peace and you'll be able to do it from another level. All right, I'm thinking of Jay-Z. He just became like a billionaire. Not that I think everyone needs to be billionaires, you know, share the wealth. But, you know, coming from the block and the hood and now being able to go and bail out people that are, you know, protesting for our freedom, and being able to pay for the college educations of people that never had, because he knows, because he's from there, and, you know, all these kind of things. That's a whole different level. So sometimes you have to let yourself go enough so you can get to those different levels, so you can truly come down and give, you know, open up that stairway behind you and help everyone get through that glass ceiling. But you have to let yourself through it first, okay? All right. So, yes, get your success for you first, and then you'll be able to do more for others. But you need some nurturing right now, and that's okay. So that is your reading number 3. Thank you so much for your bravery and honesty in coming to heal and connect and work on these aspects of yourself. When we heal ourselves, we heal the entire world. When we heal ourselves, we heal our entire lineage in those ways. So thank you so much. I appreciate you for doing that. Thank you. For those of you that chose number 4, how can you unpack trauma? Which traumas need some attention at this time? We have the 7 of Pentacles, the 7 of Sacred Circles. Oh, that's so beautiful. Oh, that's like delectable. Okay, we have the King of Wands, the Sage of Wands. Each reading has had a card from the previous reading in it, which I think is very interesting. I think some people are watching it all the way through. We have the Strength card. We've had a lot of Leo energy. Oh, we have the 4 of Cups reversed. So that's what it looks like upright. The decks will be down below. And we have ecstasy, yielding, rapture, and bliss. My throat is navigating through this change in Mercury signs. I think we went from Gemini, Mercury, to now Mercury in Cancer. Okay. I love that there's like a Yoda. This is such a quirky deck. Okay. It's kind of like, is there any other option than to be you? Really, is there? What could be more ecstatic, more blissful, more indulgent in all the right ways than to be absolutely you? To find the parts of yourself that you love and to let those thrive and grow. To find peace with the parts of yourself that don't and let those heal and grow. What could be better than that? Because if every person on the planet did that, the world would be like freaking rocking in the best way, wouldn't it? So this is about taking those masks off. It's about it's so funny because that kind of looks like a person in the background, but I think it's like a house too. Or is it a person with drums? It is a person with drums. So some of you have been feeling like, you know, for, I don't know, like you have to put on a show for who knows who, you know? Like you have no options, that you can't just be who you are. And you don't even know where this mask came from. You don't even know how you got to this point. For some of you, it was trying to fit into a particular scene, right? So you're like, well, you know, this is what us computer nerds do. This is what, you know, us cosplayers do. This is what we do on this particular scene. Those of us who are actors, you know, this is how we do. That sense of needing community, needing to fit in, you might realize that you're not being fully authentic. And as much as a lot of, you know, so-called communities and family dynamics might think that they desperately need us to fulfill a certain pre-described role in order for everything to work, quite often what we really need is for everyone to be their own individual self and then find out how those best work together. And I think that that's been what's going on, because I see so much abundance and beauty. You're meant to connect with others. You're meant to be able to give into joy and peace, and to stop beating yourself up and feeling like you have to have this secret identity, or to not have an identity at all. All right, some of you really are hiding your sexuality, your sensuality, your desires, your wanting to be on stage and perform. Maybe you're like, family dynamics called for you to have to go be a pharmacist, but you really wanted to be on stage and you were good at it, So it's like, what is your bliss? Why do you yield and make yourself feel like you have no options, when really, if you would have a bit more courage in yourself and claim your right to live your own life, you definitely would have a ton of options, a lot of options, and it would contribute. It would contribute to what else is going on here. Some people are beans, some people are corn, right? Some people are mushrooms, some are grapes. All of those are necessities. Some are bread. We need all those different parts. We really do. Pumpkins, all different signs of abundance, squash, fish, all of those are abundant paths. All of those are valid ways of being. All of those are valid things of bringing to the table. But for some reason, it's either been made out that you feel you have to bring everything to the table yourself, and that you can't trust anyone else to do. So there could be some control issues, your way or the highway. It has to be your options, not hearing any other options. And some of you, it's been that you have to give exactly this way, be exactly this person, or everything's going to explode and we're all going to end up, frying on Mars, or some weird scenario that wouldn't occur. Okay. Everyone's like, conspiracy theories. Yes, it could, because look, stay with me. Some of you have Aquarius and Leo polarities in your chart. There's some Cancer here, earth signs, Taurus especially, and yes, I said Leo. Okay. Yeah. So this is about your spiritual path and your physical path. All right. I'm seeing some of you very spiritual, very creative, very witchy, trying to see how that fits in to the mold of, just work hard, work harder in the day-to-day life. Some of you, you're like, but I don't want to just be a caterpillar my whole life. I need to be a butterfly. And this is, so it is traumatic. It's traumatic to live within other people's roles and masks and what they demand of us, and not to just be able to be ourselves. Damn it. You're like, I love the culture, I love the family, I love where I come from, but what this reminds me of? Reminds me of like when people are like, oh, like black people can't cosplay, or if you're like those stereotypes, like my friends who are like, yes, like I'm Asian, but I want to do the performing arts. Like, man, can everyone stop being hard on me? I don't have to go and do math. Like, very basic stereotypes that can be so painful and annoying, and just like, this again, like, come on, to have to work through. Like, can I just be myself? It's such a freaking basic thing to be able, can I just be myself? Like, yes, I like what I like. I want to do what I want to do. This is not, and so I feel like for you personally, when you're within that group, when your family won't have your back, when you feel like you're trying to enter into that space and everyone's telling you that isn't your space, but that's who you are, that's overwhelming, and it's so frustrating, because you're like, this is you said there was a potluck and everyone show up who they are. That's all I did. Like, what's the difficulty? And yet day to day going through that and trying to claim your space and be who you are can be freaking exhausting. All right, now some of you, your trauma has been allowing others to be themselves. Some of you have been the ones who aren't accepting and forgiving, and yes, you can be both. All right. For instance, there's tons of people in the LGBTQIA plus community that don't accept other aspects of it, or other races, or other family dynamics of people in the community. right? Totally a thing. It's totally possible to feel that you are, you know, constricted yourself and yet not have compassion. You see that in families, right? You see siblings who don't support each other and band together, even though they're dealing with the same kind of oppressive forces from their parents, and you think that they would join in and be more supportive of each other, but they don't. They beef with each other. Some of you, I feel like you lost your opportunities and chances. And I do see in some cases there could have been real missed chances, or there's certain things that you're like, well, I can't go back and, you know, let myself take ballet classes my whole life, or different things like that. It's like, no, but you can still, you're still that person. So if you had been able to take all those classes and lessons, and you still ended up currently where you are, you know, maybe the stage ended for you, what would you do then as that internal ballerina? What would you be doing then? Would you open a dance studio at this point in your life? Would you go travel and see all the big shows? You know what I mean? We are who we are, and that doesn't leave us. And so to think that, oh, that one moment that we missed defined us, and now we can never be who we are, it's not how it works. It's how it seems to work in society, and society hopes that we will prescribe to that to be easier to just stick to the role, go get the beans. It's like, I don't want to bring beans, I want to bring chili, okay? I got a whole bunch more spice to add to this situation. And so that's why you have the ecstasy card. Yielding, rapture, bliss. This taps into the energy of the maenads, just primal chaos in its beautiful form, right? We're stardust. We're bigger than just these day-to-day worries, not being able to be who we are, express ourselves. You know, it's more than just dyeing our hair or wearing a particular outfit. It's creating a life like this. I love that this is a mobilized King of Wands, because I'm always like, wands are the active suit. Like yes, they usually have him leaning forward like he's about to pop out of his throne. Like, okay, you got the picture? But like, yeah, Aries, Leo, Sag, they don't really sit around too long. They're up and moving. So I love that this one is on this camel, and the camel is the symbol that you can make it, right? Camel came with me in the difficult first trimester of my pregnancy. Hold water. You have that internal magic. You can make it through. You can make it through. And so this is about, you've held your dreams, you've held, you know, your gifts all this time. They might have to take a different form now. You might be in a different country or a different place in life, but you're still you, okay? And that's really what it is about for you. The trauma of not being able to be yourself, of feeling like you can't bring to the table things that are valuable to the community, of feeling like, oh man, I missed that one record deal, so now my life will never be anything. The trauma of feeling like I'm never authentic. Like, damn, I'm never authentic. Like, what? How do I do that? Who am I? You know, I'm definitely seeing existential crisis. Again, that Leo Aquarius polarity. If I don't know who I am and I can't get validated in who I am, I swing to that place of, why am I even existing in the universe? You know, that's a lot to unpack. But I think sometimes when we sit in that we are a piece of the universe, that we are this, you know, our own little orbit in the midst of all this cosmic, you know, stars and planets, then we kind of, I don't know. Do you ever have that where you go out and you look at the stars so much that you know who you are? Like, they know who you are, you know who you are, you're here, I see you, star sees me. It just reconnects you with wholeness, regrounds yourself. But it's kind of like the reverse of grounding, starring. I don't know what it's called. Yes, I'm a Pisces with Aquarius placements, trying to explain this. Yielding to rapture and bliss. Some of you just meant to be great, right? That doesn't mean you don't do the small things, but it means you do the small things with finesse. Salt gun meme. And you don't have to ignore that. You know, you can have a job that's 9 to 5 and then go do all your, I'm getting big cosplayers with this, go do all your cosplay and your travels and fund that. You can find your balance between having your space, having your shine, and still helping others, you know, and not getting too much into any hubris or anything. Yeah. And to others, I think that's why it's difficult, because to others they might be like, well, that's not too like traumatic. For you it is. Yes, it's hard to not be yourself growing up. It's hard to have to hide your identity. It's hard. I'm seeing some people like maybe even like how you look doesn't reflect your race in certain ways, and yet you still went through the things that your race does. Right? So there could be things like that where you're like, how I look doesn't reflect who I am or what I'm identifying with, but I'm me. Like, I'm me, and you can't just keep taking that away. You can't just, I talked about erasure at the beginning of this reading. The Seven of Sacred Circles is so beautiful though, because the Seven of Pentacles is about the harvest, about getting, something's telling me to look to see if they wrote anything particular in this, about getting the fruits of our labor. It's also about us evaluating, okay, I've done the same thing the same way for a long time. Was it worth anything? You know, and I think some of you, the earth signs, probably digging in the heels already, like, no, it's okay to change. All right. It's okay to change. Okay, so here it says the rewards of hard work, the bounty of the harvest, communal sharing of food or resources, the fruits of labor sustain the community through the winter season, conservation of resources for lean times. So it is important that you do still contribute. Some of you felt like you've never, like maybe you feel like I've always been the poor friend. I've never been able to give back to the community that I want. I feel like I should. Yes, you should. That's going to help you. Oh, it's going to be so good. And it's not like, oh, like I am a better person, so I'm doing the soup kitchens. No, it's not, oh, I will donate to children in Africa and ignore what's happening to people here. No, it's not like that. This is saying you are your community. You are your community member. You don't have to be perfect. Ooh, there we go. You do not have to get perfection before you can go out and live your life. Some of you are like, when I am perfect, then I'll show everyone who I really am. When I'm famous, then I'll show everyone who I really am, and you're gonna love me. Then I will show you. I will enjoy myself once I have, you know, tons of money in the community and a big community standing. Then I'll be myself. Then I'll give in to pleasure. Then I'll be able to have an orgasm. Like, it's, you know, that's this card's about. Like, all different types of pleasure. Like, can you even relax to allow yourself to be, you know, pleased and happy in life in a true way? Can you be happy without feeling like you're not doing what you're supposed to for the group, you know, for the bigger cause? Can you partake in the bigger cause without feeling like, oh, well, I'm doing this against my will and I'm not happy? So there could be some community dynamics to work out. You might need to connect in better ways, but you won't feel fulfilled this group until you are giving back in a way to the community, until you feel that you're doing something of worth for those around you. And I think that it's not an either or, and that's been the thing. You've been feeling like, well, either I need to go and get famous and get my money or whatever, these are examples, or I have to sit here and be grassroots and do this, this, and this. Well, maybe you're someone who's meant to do both. Maybe your platform that you get doing you can help you, you know, fund things for grassroots causes and help your community. You never know. But unless you start being your full self, nobody is going to know where you exactly belong or place your role, right? And so at a certain point, we have to stop being upset for people trying to help us fit into a role. And we have to be like, oh, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I feel good about doing. Here's where I'm changing right now. Here is what I'm switching up. Here's what I'm good at working at. Here's what I'm not so good at working at. Please don't ask me to show up in that vein. Not that we never do anything we don't want to, but, you know, if you've hated making bread for the family meals for the past 20 years, maybe, you know, just don't do that anymore and do something else instead. Sometimes in order to get rid of a certain position, we have to replace it with something else. And that's kind of how the universe works. If we keep saying we don't want something, but we never say what we do want, the universe doesn't really, like, you'll just keep attracting what you don't want. Okay? So see others in all their forms. Allow others to be who they are. And right, because some of you, that's an issue. You're like, no, this is who you are. Since when do you go and do this, this, this? You might project that onto others. That's going to free you up. Allow others to give back to their communities in the ways that they can. All right. So instead of being like, oh, well, you know, like you might project like, oh, this celebrity, they should be doing this, because you feel bad that you can't give to your community. Don't worry about that. Okay. Worry about you getting your shine on, shining this universal, divine, beautiful being full-fledged who you are. And that is going to fill all the lack that you need in your life. It's going to bring abundance. It's going to contribute something to your community and to society at large. And like I've been saying throughout all these readings, when you heal yourself, you heal the whole world. Okay? And these readings went really long. Some people are going to be like, man, I wanted a short, just, you know, boom, boom. So I guess you'll just get the parts that are meant for you. But I hope that this reading was healing, and, you know, it's not an end all be all, but just to give some guidance and some ideas of what would be very therapeutic for you, what areas to focus on so that you can have more fulfillment with self. You know, take these two as tools to the rest of your healthcare plan, your spirit, your emotional, mental health, with those providers, and hopefully it gave a little insight to you. Yeah. So thank you for watching. Thank you for caring to love on yourself and work on yourself. And I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.